Hello, everybody. Today we have with us Hassan Khan, and he has got rank 95 this time and gonna join into IAS. We are here to discuss his journey of optional, history optional. History has been very fortunate this year with a lot of toppers in top 100 and overall a lot more toppers than previous year. But we don't want to discuss history optional in general. हमें ओवरऑल बातें नहीं करनी है. हमारा जो स्पेसिफिक एजेंडा है इस टाइम एंड फॉर विच हसन इज मोस्ट सुटेबल कैंडिडेट is to study difference between history optional for UPSC and history as a subject when you go for college. In university आपने BA किया है, BA honors किया है, MA किया है, NET-JRF हो, whatever you do in university, in academia, how do you approach history in India? And when you switch on to UPSC preparation for history optional, what is the difference? And why is Hassan most suitable? Because उसकी खुद की background. Hassan has done BA honors from Kirori Mal in DU. Also, he has done masters, cleared NET-JRF as well. And actually, I did not know, he just informed me that he was also topper during honors. So his academic journey is very solid in history. And then he switched to UPSC preparation after COVID. In that time, he also went to his own cycle of learning and preparation. And then he perhaps realized that not exactly everything is applicable as it is from university to UPSC preparation. So I think the format of the discussion will be Hassan will speak for some time in the beginning, maybe 30-40 minutes as per his ideas, what he wants to speak about, his learnings over last couple of years, about कैसे change होता है from university to academia to UPSC. And then we'll be open to question answer session and the questions will be asked and answered. ठीक है? Hassan, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you so much, sir.
Let us begin.
Okay, so a very good afternoon to all of you, and I'm very thankful to Nikhil sir and the Level Up IS team to inviting me and share my thoughts and experiences that I have been getting throughout these years. So first of all, a brief introduction about myself. So as sir has already told us that I did my graduation in history honors from Kirori Mal College of DU. Then I also pursued my post graduation in history also, and then I also cleared NET-JRF. As far as my UPSC journey is concerned, so I in my first attempt I appeared for the interview, but because I did not score well in my optional paper because I almost left blank of questions of 90 marks in my optional. So then I just got the call of the interview only, and but I could not clear it finally. In my second attempt, I could clear the UPSC, and I got a rank 643. So I luckily I got this Indian Railway Traffic Service, and this time I got this rank 95, and I hopefully I would be getting IAS. So as far as the academic journey is concerned, so because I just fortunately or unfortunately could get admission in history honors from of Kirori Mal College. So I then started getting interest in history. Before that, I was not too much interested in history. I also used to think about history as that we have to remember the dates, we have to remember the personalities' names only, and this is only the history part. We have to know. We don't know how to understand history in a proper perspective. So that I just fortunately got admission in history honors. Then I started understanding history. So while I was doing my graduation, I also started preparing a bit for the optional as well. But properly after post graduation, I started doing history for the optional paper. So why I chose history as my option, because there was, so at that point of time, 2022 or 21, the other papers were getting so much marks in their optional, while the history was not doing too well, except one or two persons. History was not getting enough marks. But I chose history for number of reasons. So what were the reasons for me at least? So first was the reason that it is the static nature. So its static nature helped me a lot, because unlike the other papers of PSIR or they, for instance, the economics, you don't have too many contemporary issues in history. So that becomes a more relevant for you, because you need not to update too many times your or notes. So a static nature helps me a lot, because I was knowing that if I have to cover this portion in very well, then I would be getting questions from these portions only. So that was the first advantage for me, at least for the choosing history as my optional. Second was my academic background in history. So the vastness of the syllabus was not very troublesome for me, because I was knowing that this is the themes, this is the topics, and this is the length of the syllabus. So it would definitely help me. So the vastness of the subject was not troubling me. So it was also one of the advantageous point. And third was this issue of this basically other advantage in GS1, especially in the, you can see in GS1 the kind of questions that we get, especially art and culture point questions. Then the for instance, in 2024, the question was the First World War was the balance of war for the balance of power. So it is an optional question. And in 2023, we get the question on the new technologies introduced by the during the Delhi Sultanate. So it is an optional question. So in the GS1, you do not need to prepare after if you have done your optional properly. So in GS1, history would definitely help you in completing at least questions of the 70 or 80 marks, and society as well. So society would, the history would also help you in getting your question in society very well. Then other another advantage was especially during the interview phase. So every interview panel member is always interested in history, so they would definitely going to ask you the question from the history part. And that was for me, at least for it was favorable for me for my second attempt. So during my second interview time, I got 195, because the questions were related more from the history, the opinion on the historical issues, the historical personalities, and other kind of issues. And that was sometimes in that was in my favor. So that history would always help you in your interview, the opinion making of your points. So history would also help me, also helping me a lot in that manner. And then another thing is the essay part. So for essay, you have always to have to start from the anecdotes. And history, always in history paper, you would be getting so many anecdotes from the different perspective, so many historical examples that you can always use in your essay as well as in your ethics paper. So in ethics, you require so many ethical example, and you can get example from the Indian history as well as from the world history, the world personality that you can get. So ethics as well, you can get so many examples. So that was my advantageous phase, or I should say that that was in my advantage. But there was so many lacunas as well, because I was having a more back experience in academic. So I was also trying to replicate that academic things in my optional as well. So what there is a thing that, for instance, in my optional on my academic stand, so there are always my other our favorite topics in history. So when I was in my academics, so I used to read too much about the this decline of the Mauryan Empire. So there was a whole debate between the Romila Thapar and then other historians why the Mauryan Empire declined, and there was this favorite debate on the iron, the use of iron. So the was the iron was the first mover, or there was something else along with the iron that was helpful during the 6th century. So these were my favorite topics. But when I came to the optional as my history as my optional, so I realized that more than favorite topics, you have to complete your syllabus first. So you should always try to understand that UPSC would be getting question from the syllabus itself. You can't just pick and choose that, okay, this is my favorite topic, so I would be doing enough thesis, antithesis, and PhD level understanding in one topic, and another topic I would be leaving apart. You have to complete your optional properly very well through the syllabus as well. So whatever has been given in the syllabus, you should try to get the notes, proper notes on those aspects, on syllabus points. And especially with that emerging of the new questions that we are seeing in optional, you if you had done the unconventional type of syllabus points, you would be getting questions from them. For instance, this megalithic question, the kind of burial system that the megalithic peoples were having, that was one of the unconventional question that UPSC has never asked. But this was the question that they usually ask. Then, especially in the recent year, the more focus on the Chalcolithic period, the kind of artifacts that the Chalcolithics were having, and the other kind of things. Then, similarly, the questions on the regional kingdoms of the 15th, 14th century between the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughals time. Usually the questions not were not from those areas, but now the questions are emerging from those areas. But because I was from the academic background, so I was having some specific favorite topics. So I was doing too much of those topics, and I was not focusing on these neglected topics. So I realized after my first attempt that I should have read about these topics as well. So first learning of mine was that you should try to complete your syllabus from a institute point, notes properly. So you should have the consolidated notes for entire syllabus, and you should keep on reading them, understanding them, and you should try to get them from the syllabus perspective. Then second was this historical debate kind of view. So I was so much interested in historical debate. So when you are in your academia, so you are always interested in historical debate, historiographical debates, and there are historiographical debates so much. And especially the university system that we follow, especially at least in DU, the focus is on the historical perspectives only. So the one historian would be emphasizing on one aspect, then another historian would be countering it, then the same historian would be again coming with the new understanding and hypothesis. So this would keep on going on. And I was also, because I was in my academia, so I was also so much interested. For instance, this feudalism debate. So there is so much debate around the Harvans Mukhya, then R.S. Sharma, then D.K. Chakravarti, and then other historians, and they are always trying to write upon these topics. But for you should understand, in especially in optional, you are not supposed to write too many historiographical debates. If the UPSC is specifically asking for the historiographical debate, you should write it. For instance, this Indus Valley civilization, the decline of Indus Valley civilization. So you should write it because it is the UPSC is directly asking for it. But if you are not getting, for instance, the nature of Mughal Empire, so this question was two-edge question. So what I read in my graduation, so I write it from that perspective. Okay, so I wrote about the Simir Mushwi. I wrote about this Muzaffar Alam and other kind of Farad Hassan. So I wrote from this perspective, this nature of Mughal Empire. But what I found that it was not the kind of question that UPSC was asking. UPSC was asking the nature of Mughal Empire in the perspective what was the Mansabdari system, what was the Jamidari, what was the land revenue system of that administration, what kind of the posts that were there. So I realized in my second attempt that the kind of question that the UPSC asked, it is not from the historiographical perspective. So you should also try to unlearn your historiographical understanding kind of things. And then thirdly is the, so basically when we are our academy or our graduation, so our teacher or our professor used to give so many readings read for specific topics. So there becomes so many multiple readings and other things for us to complete our only for one topic there would be at least 4 or 5 readings. But for your optional, especially in UPSC, you should try to limit your sources. First of all, you should try to limit your sources and try to get the consolidated notes for entire paper. For instance, for ancient India, just get one institute in consolidated notes properly, keep them revising and then keep on revising them. And after that, if you have get enough time, then just read 1 or 2 books for the entire period. For instance, in ancient India, I completed my entire notes from one consolidated notes, and then I also read Ranveer Chakravarti. Only after that, I completed my entire syllabus of ancient India. Then, for the interesting point of interest only, I was reading my Ranveer Chakravarti. But I would not be doing Ranveer Chakravarti, then Upinder Singh, then Romila Thapan, then other historians' book, because that we you can do it, we can afford it during our graduation days, but we can't afford it in our optional paper. So, in optional paper, you should try to limit as much as you can and try to solve the PYQs. PYQs are considered as the holy grail. So they would be giving you the dimension, in what dimension UPSC is going to ask question from which theme, in what depth the question is going to be asked. So the UPSC PYQs would be more beneficial for you along with the limited sources. Then the another thing was at least for what I need to unlearn after my first attempt, that the answer writing format. So answer in my when we were doing in our optional in our graduation, so we used to write in a more paragraphic format. And we, especially for the introduction as well, our introduction used to go at least for the 7 or 8 line or even 9 line. But you can't afford in your optional paper. You have to be very brief and crisp in your optional paper. So just try to write a brief introduction of 3 to 4 lines maximum, and then try to write in a paragraph. Even if you are writing in a paragraph form, your paragraph should not be lengthier more than 3 or 4 lines. So try to minimize your the length of your paragraphs to a small points, and try to maximize your number of points, especially in paper one. Paper one would be rewarding only when you are writing more number of points along with a more factual nature. So your answer writing format would be changed substantially when you are doing your optional paper. So answer writing format is very much required to be changed when you come into your optional paper. And here you can see the toppers copies of the optional paper. They were how they were writing. So that would help you in changing or transitioning from the academia to the optional paper. Because I found it a bit difficult in my first attempt, but then I started seeing or watching the kind of toppers copies, how they were writing, how they were formatting their answers. That helped me a lot in transitioning from the paragraphic format to heading wise short points. So that is the answer writing format is very much required. And then another point was that's the opinion versus factual nature. So especially in our academias, we usually focus on the historian's perspective. So one historian might have said something. For instance, this BP Saucer has said something on the feudalism debate, and then another historian would be saying something else. So, what because these are the historical perspective, historians' perspective. These are not the factual in nature. While you are doing your optional paper, a bit fact are very much required. So, in academia, we do not focus too much on the facts. We usually focus on the arguments, on the opinions, and other historiographical things. But while you are doing in your optional, you should try to remember always a number of facts as well that would be required to substantiate your point. In every point you need to show that you know the about the historical facts as well, and you are substantiating your point with the historical fact. You are not just saying something for the namesake only. So the facts you should, especially in paper one as well, in the history, for instance in ancient India, if the question is on the architecture of the Pallav kingdoms or the Chol kingdom, you need to write the specific example of the Brihadeshwar temple, Kanchipuram temples, and the other kind of temple. You should specifically mention them. And then you should also try to write or draw the map as well of the Chol kingdom. While in graduation, you would not be focusing on too much on the factual nature, but in the optional paper in the UPSC, you should also try to remember a number of facts, and that would they would be definitely will be rewarding you as well. And another thing is the map. So the in history, you in the graduation or the post graduation, you would never be reading anything about the maps. But here in optional paper, this is the kind of mathematics and history optional. So the maps of the 50 marks can change your entire rank as well. Because the if even if you are getting just 15 or 16 mapping location correct, you can get at least till 35 or 40 marks in your optional very well. So you should try to focus your map. I used to do in my mapping portion. So I first of all I use this theme wise portion. So theme wise map. So Paleolithic, then Mesolithic, then Neolithic. For every theme, you should have the proper locations of the map for every site. And then for every site, I used to write 3 or 4 specific features of that site. So one would be the district of that site, as well as the province or the state of that site. Then another 2 features of that specific site. For instance, if the site is the Mehergarh, then the first plants village and other kind of the domestications elements, then the kind of things. So the specific features for every site, I would be writing 3 or more specific features of that site, and then I would be keep on reading it for at least for the 3 or 4 months before my optional paper. So, for instance, if my optional paper is in August, so I would be start reading it for at least for daily 15 or 20 minutes. I would be reading it from the March onwards. So for the March, April, May, June, I would be reading it because that would definitely help you in your prelims as well, because a number of questions are also asked from the mapping site as well. For instance, the Skalsi of the Ashoka, or some other Chandraketugarh of this Bengal side. So these are questions are being asked in the prelims as well. So it would also help me in the prelims along with it, because I am reading it for at least for the 15 or 20 minutes. So the features would be remembered in my mind, as well as the I would be getting it the specific site. Okay, so it is in the Gujarat. So there are the three or four sites of the Neolithic. So these would be one of them. So map, you should at least practice map at least for the 3 or 4 months before your optional paper. And another thing is the world history. So usually in our academia, we usually ignore our world history. Or world history, what we do in world history, we usually do the emergence of the modern world, the rise of the modern West, and the specific themes of those world history. Because every university has the freedom to decide the themes or the topics or the courses on the world history. So every university decide on its own manner. So the organic manner that is required in the optional paper, especially in the world history, that is not completed in your academias. So the world history should be effectively done properly, because otherwise the kind of question that are asked, they are very simple in optional paper, especially the world history. And if in paper 2, if you are attempting more number of questions from the world history, there are more number of chance that you would be getting good marks in the paper 2 as well. Because paper in paper 2, the modern history, you would be required to show the kind of academic depth in the modern history. While in the world history, if you are writing in a more factual manner, that would be more rewarding to you. So in the paper 2, you should focus on the world history properly. That would be bringing your marks from the 100 to 140. So world history should be done effectively in your while you are completing your things. What I recently in my third last attempt, so what I added in my answers. So I used to I tried to add the number of map locations. So if I am writing a number of a historical site, if I'm mentioning it, then I would be trying to draw a map for that optional for that site as well in the corner as well, so that I should show that I know the historical site, I know the historical fact, I know the historical personality. So try to mention your historical dates, historical personality name as well, especially in optional as well as in your GS1 as well. So in the GS1, you need to show that if you are writing a historical answer, you should show the historical specificity of that answer. Then the small paragraph. So in my third attempt, I what I changed that start writing with the small heading, and then after small heading, I would be writing within that a small 3 or 4 lines paragraph. So heading wise format I start following, especially in paper 1. In paper 2, if a question is of a kind of debate or argument kind of thing, that you can follow the paragraphic format. What especially in paper 1, I what I started doing that a small heading, then within that small heading I would be writing enough 3 or 4 line content. So then I started writing at least in 15 markers, at least 8 to 9 headings would be there, properly small heading in a small paragraph. So that increased my number of points in my optional. And it also started looking that I am having enough enriched content for every topic. So that also gave that it also become attractive for the, at least for the evaluators as well, that you, although you know that properly very well. And then another thing what I did that I started not mentioning too many historians, but I just started dropping their names and their core argument. So for instance, if the question was on the social religious reform movement, then I would be starting in the introduction as well that the Kenneth Jones has described these movements as that reformative as well as the restorative movement. That's the only thing that I wrote. So in my entire answer, there would be this one historian of the Kenneth Jones only. Then I would not be writing about anything else. So there, you just start writing, dropping some historical historians' names and their core argument. Do not write from the historians' perspectives only. So there was my one of my friend that because she was from the Stephens, so especially, and she has done entire historiographical debates for every topic and every historian she was knowing. So she wrote only from that historical perspective, historian's perspective, and that becomes so much disaster for her, because she only got marks in the 60s or 70s in paper 2, because she wrote only from the historian's point of view. She did not write from his own perspective, and she did not try to mention too many historical facts. So you should minimize the historian's name. So especially that is the most required thing if you are transitioning from the academia to the optional. So stop mentioning too many historians. Mention their core arguments and try to write in a more factual manner. That would be more rewarding for you. And another rule that I followed, especially with the help of the PYQ analysis, that the 80-20 rules is always there in the history optional. So the most number of the question would be from the specific themes only. For instance, in post-modern period, the question would always be from the either from the economic perspective, so age of commerce, because it is called age of commerce, or it would be the changing nature of the religion. Similarly, in the post-Gupta period, the question would be around one question would be around the changing nature of the religion as well, because the Puranic religion is emerging in that period. So there, the kind of question that if you properly do the PYQ analysis, you would be finding that 80-20 rule is always there in the history optional. Just cover your entire syllabus properly, but the 20 themes that are more required, you should do them more thoroughly. So that if you are getting those questions, just try to attempt them properly, and then another 5 or 6 questions that you can just mention, write them in a more adequate manner, not in a more thorough manner. So the 80-20 rule was very much effective for me. And especially similarly, for instance, in world history, the question on the relevance of the UN, that would be in a one manner or another. Similarly, the integration of the Germany or the Italy. So one question would always be there from that theme. So these are the themes when you do the PYQ analysis, and then your mentor would definitely help you and identify those areas where the UPSC is always asking question from those areas. Try to complete them in a more effective manner. So these are the some of the things that I experienced when I was transitioning from my academia to the optional. And then gradually only I started remembering, okay, so these are the new nuances of the optional that would I one should practice at least for when one is completing his optional. And then definitely it would be rewarding. And hopefully you also got the chance of after this prelims you got the chance of writing your mains, and I could help you a bit of a bit help I could make in your transitioning from the academias to the optional, and you got the chance of writing mains, and you do wonders in your optional as well. Thank you. This was from the my side, and you can ask a number of questions that one is having. Any.
Oh, Hassan, thank you for all this point-wise and detailed discussion. I
Thank you, sir.
actually have one very different question before we start discussing
Yes. Yes.
student queries. Is that we discussed how UPSC is different from the
Yeah.
academia when it comes to
Yes,
approach
sir.
to history. But
Yes.
is there any advantage that we carry? If you have BA history honors or you have done MA, कुछ फायदा तो होता होगा या सारी दिक्कतें ही है?
No, no, sir. It is very much interesting because, as I mentioned, so first of all, the vastness of the syllabus, you are never afraid of the vastness. So everyone would be afraid if a person of the BTech or so, and then he or she started reading history. So he or she would be very much burdensome. Okay, so this is the length of the syllabus, but because you have done your academias in history, so you are aware of the Ashoka, you are aware of the post-Gupta period, you are aware of the different things that are there in the history. So you would not never be concerned, okay, so I have not completed my syllabus. You have already completed your syllabus. But now because you require the consolidated notes at one place only, that is required when you are doing your optional paper. So consolidated notes. And secondly, as I mentioned that I also started mentioning the historians' names as well. So because that was not taught in your any historical notes or the consolidated notes. This was from my graduation and post graduation. That Kenneth Jones I was knowing because of my post graduation in history. So I was
Every
mentioning him. Yeah. So the Kenneth Jones and other historians, Barbara Metcalf and other historians, I would be mentioning because I was having any background. And so the historians' name, the historiographical debates, the 6th century, the Iron debate, and these are the debates that you have done your specific expertise. So you would be this would definitely help you a lot, but just a bit more transition is required. That's the only thing that is required.
Hassan, let me create a scenario for you.
Yeah.
Let us assume a student who is in second year or third year of BA history in BU.
Yeah.
And along with college, now the student wants to also prepare for UPSC with history optional.
Yeah.
Given the activities that happen on college, given the academic calendar, exam calendar, etc., how do you, how now looking back after all these years of experience and expertise, how would you help him have a schedule कि भाई 2 साल तुम before graduation क्या करो in third semester, fourth semester, fifth semester? If you can give some pointers.
What I would have done specifically. So from my third semester onwards, I would start understanding on the reading the basic books on the history. So the NCRT, the old NCRT, the R.S. Sharma, then Romila Thapar and the Arjun Dev books.
Satish
So I
Chandra.
would be So the Satish Chandra. So I would be reading at least in my third or fourth semester. I would be reading those books because so I would be knowing the organic themes that Indian history was evolving in a proper perspective, and I would be also familiar with those names. And then from my fifth semester onwards, because especially in the DU, the semester wise has become the history syllabus has been divided in such a drastic manner that the organic nature of this history has been forgotten. Because in the your fourth semester you are taught 1757 to 1857 along with the Delhi Sultanate. And in the fifth semester only, you would be taught this Mughal Empire and other things, and then you would be taught this modern time. So that the organic theme is always broken down there. So I would have done in my third and fourth semester, I would have read these basic books properly. And then from the fifth semester onwards, I have started reading the consolidated notes for the history optional. So I would be started from the history, ancient India, because in my first semester only and my third semester, I would have been taught till the early medieval time. So then I can start from my fifth semester onwards that I would be completing my ancient and medieval. And then till the end of my graduation, at least my paper one would be completed because ancient India I have done and early medieval and medieval I have done. And then after my graduation, I would be focusing on paper two because for the paper two, you would be required a more academic depth, and that would be given you in semester four and paper semester six. So paper two should be done after your graduation, but paper one is more factual in nature, and the kind of things that even you are reading your basic notes, you can get a good understanding with the proper help of the mentor if you are getting some issues in historical debates kind of things.
Okay, that is quite helpful.
Yes,
helpful. If you know already what to do, when to do, and how to do,
yes, sir.
We don't have to repeat the same experiences for everybody.
Yes, sir, obviously.
Now, Hassan, let me go through I have noted down all the points you discussed.
Okay.
If you open the floor, I have a few questions to ask.
Sure.
I'll go with the same sequence in which you explained things.
Okay.
Firstly, you talked about we should not have favorite topics as such. Whatever we like, we have to do everything properly,
yes, sir.
comprehensively,
Yes,
and then we should also understand the frequency. Which topic is more important for
yes.
UPSC? There is
Yes,
80-20 rule there.
Yes, sir.
But then you also mentioned there is some newly emerging topics now. If you are done
Yes, sir.
comprehensively, then we can answer those questions as well.
Answer yes, sir.
But can you give me some sense of what are these new themes or topics that are UPSC is now opening up in 2-3 साल में?
Okay.
क्या नए
Yes, sir.
changes आ रहे हैं?
So I would be starting from the ancient India. So one specific area that I mentioned is the Chalcolithic period. The Chalcolithic has become one of the favorite topics. Then sometimes the megalithic is always asked. So in one manner or another. So then this is the one area. Then another theme that I found interesting was this the administration of the Gupta period. So the administration of Gupta were never asked in a more frequent manner. The administration of the Mauryan was more important. But now the administration, because there is the link between the Mauryan as well the Gupta administration. So the UPSC is also focusing on the comparison and the contrast between the Mauryan and the Gupta administration. So this is the one area. Then what I also found interesting, the post Gupta period. So the post Gupta period, the features, the dynasties, for instance, the Chalukya and the Pallav conflict. So this has been repeated at least for the consecutive years for the 2024 as well as 2025. The question was there from the Pallav Chalukya Empire. So the southern India is becoming a more important for the from the UPSC perspective. Similarly, if we are doing in the medieval time, so the especially the regional kingdoms after the Delhi Sultanate and before the Mughal Empire. So even the general update used to be asked, but the kind of question from the Malwa, the kind of the Gujarat kingdoms, Gujarat Sultanate, the Bengal Sultanate, these are the emerging areas. The Bahmani kingdoms in 2024, the UPSC asked the question on the Bahmani, the influences of the Bahmani. So the regional kingdoms are becoming more important. Similarly, in the modern time, the early modern period, so the decline of the Mughals and the emergence of the Britishers, and the time period between those two themes is becoming more important for the UPSC. So the emergence of the Nizami's kingdoms, the Nizam Empire, and the another kind of the Awadh kingdoms. So these are the themes that we have always neglected in our while we were doing our preparation. So, but these are the areas that one should also start focusing at least some point should be there for on these themes as well, so that if the question is asked from these areas, so one can answer them. For instance, this year the question was on the karkhanas of the Mughal time. So the karkhanas, because the economic history we used to do, but we used to focus on the economic history only the industries as well, or the kind of organizational system that the Mughals were following. So this was also emerging thing. So the organizational system that the different kingdoms were following, that is also becoming a bit more important. So one should try to do some things in a more comprehensive manner.
Okay. And this we can do properly only when we finish the syllabus completely.
Yes, sir.
Because these things are mentioned in syllabus, but we
Yes,
don't
sir.
focus on them.
We don't follow them. Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes. So that's good. The second thing that you focused a lot and in a very good way was about the role of historiography.
Yes, sir.
All other students who come to
Yeah.
history optional out of interest and curiosity, it is
Yeah.
about learning historians' names and trying to
Yes, sir.
use them. And they find it
Yes.
in initial days at least thoda sa difficult, but then once they
Yes.
get used to it, वो आसान हो जाता है.
Yes,
For
sir.
those who come from academic side,
Yeah.
journey ulti hai. They have to
Ulti, yeah.
reduce
Yes, sir. They have
historiography.
to reduce your mentioning. Yes, sir.
Uh, is it easy to do that? And if I understood, you said just drop a name, just mention in one single line the core argument, etc. But there are some questions in UPSC which require you to go into historiography, and there are questions which you don't require at all. तो जो एक temptation होता है कि मैं नाम लिखूं, तो how do you overcome that?
Sir, what I used to, especially in my second and third attempt, what I started doing. So, if a question is properly from a debating perspective, I would be starting answering from that historian's perspectives only. So, I would be mentioning at least two or three historians' name with their core arguments. But if it is not related to any historical perspective or historian's argument, but if I have to mention that I also need to show my economic enrichment or the content that I was having. So I would be trying to mention that historian's argument in either in the introduction or in the conclusion. Or if I'm making any one single argument in the body part, and if I can mention that historians, then I can mention. For instance, sir, so for instance, the Vedic period. So in the Vedic period, the question was on the economy of the Vedic and Rig Vedic and the later Vedic. So I was doing comparison between the Rig Vedic economy and the later Vedic economy. But I also got the temptation or that I have to mention the one historian's name. So I mentioned that in the Rig Vedic period, as the Romila Thapar has pointed out, the gifting system was very much as a tool to redistribute the sources of the Rig Vedic economy. But in the later Vedic period, the nature of the gift started becoming taking a different shape of the Bali and Bhag and other kind of thing. So I mentioned the argument, what I was trying to arrive along with the historian's perspective. So this temptation I start reducing. Otherwise, if I was in the academia, I would have started every argument with one historian's perspective. But here I wrote three or four number of points from my perspectives only, and then at least one or twice I mentioned this one historian's name. So this temptation need to be reduced. But yeah, if one is not having any background in history honors or a historical perspective, then one should also start learning some of the historians more famous and the prominent historians that they also need to mention that show you that you are also having enough understanding of the historiographical debates that are going on in the academy as well.
So I think what you're trying to say, if I put
Yeah,
2-3 points together,
yeah,
limit the temptation, focus
yeah,
on core argument, only
yeah,
main historians, don't drop
yeah,
more than 1-2 if not necessary,
yeah,
and given the scope of word limit,
yeah.
given the scope of short paragraph and headings, and given that you have to finish the answer in 2 or 3 pages.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, अपने पास चारा है नहीं. Answer should
Yes,
not
sir.
be imbalanced. We need to cover all
Balance,
the
yes, sir.
dimensions.
All the dimensions. The dimensions are more important than the historian's argument.
So that's important. So even if I don't remember historian's name, I give
Yeah,
the dimensions. That is good enough.
dimension. That is good enough, sir.
But उसी का एक और हसन nuance है छोटा सा.
Yes.
That even if I don't drop historians' names, if I come from academic background, I am also well versed with theory of history. I know,
Theory of
for
history. Yeah.
example, now just now you mentioned
Yeah.
Rugveda economy. Let me go into that specific example.
Yeah.
I think Umila Thapar has mentioned Marcel Mauss and his
Yeah.
academic study from African tribe. And
African tribe. Yes.
Rumila also is herself structural functionalist.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Even if I don't know Marcel Mauss, I can
Yeah.
use some language or some jargon
Yeah.
of
Historical. Yes, sir.
structuralism, functionalism, and that also
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
complicate my answer. उसमें
Yes, sir.
historiography नहीं है, but उसमें
No,
technicality,
no. But yes, sir, technicality.
and that
For
also
instance,
might be good.
this use of the iron as the prime mover, the first mover. So this is the historical structural point of view. That's the prime mover is the thing. So either there is would be functionalism or there was the structuralism. So these kind of the nuances can be shown if you are writing, especially in if you are the transitioning or the changing nature, the factors of the changes.
So if I use this word structuralism, linear society, functionalism,
Yes, sir.
do you think it is
Yeah.
advantageous or it
Yes,
is
sir, definitely.
avoided?
This is the key concepts that if you can mention. So when I was suggesting that you should write the core argument of the historian, that is the core argument of the historians as well. So the linear society, the redistribution of the resources. So these are the keywords that you would be getting fetch good marks as well.
Okay, so you have to. The answer should not look like GS answer. We have to have some
Yes,
technical
answer.
depth to the
Submechanically,
argument.
yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, good. That was quite helpful. Now, coming back to your next point was you have to in academia you have a lot of readings.
Yes,
On
sir.
specific topics you go in deeper. यहाँ पे you have to limit the
Yeah.
sources, and you also
Limit
mentioned
sources.
in ancient India that you prefer Ranbir Chakravarti over other books
Yes.
because time is limited.
Yes. Yes, sir. Time is limited. Yes,
And
sir.
Ranbir Chakravarti, sir, yesterday only he gave one lecture in JNU.
Okay. Yeah, yes, sir. Was from the JNU, yes, sir.
Yeah, he is a great historian.
Yes, sir.
Great historian. My point is, can you give some idea of what other books for other sections, for medieval, for post-independence, modern, world history? अगर मुझे एक किताब पकड़नी हो सिर्फ, apart from
Yes, sir.
clarity.
So, okay, sir. So first of all, the consolidated notes would be required for the facts, but for the books, so for ancient and the early medieval, I used to read this Ravi Chakravarti. Then for the emergence of the Mughal, so this is the recent book, but it is a but difficult book, the Meena Bhargava, Understanding Mughal India. So it is a more difficult book. I would not be recommending too much because I was having a background that helped me. But otherwise, you should read the Satish Chandra, the combined volume of the one and the second part. That would be helpful if you have to do just the similar the normal understanding of the medieval time. Otherwise, if one is having any background, then can go for the Meena Bhargava as well. And for the modern India, I would be recommending the Shekhar Bandyopadhyay. That is the very consolidated and the very updated book, and with the proper historians, the recent historical perspectives. And for the modern history, I would not be recommending any specific books because if you are doing the PYQs, that would be more helpful. But if just for the namesake one wants to read it, then Norman Liu is very much in a adequate book to do the world history in a proper, effective manner.
Okay, nice. Uh, uh, Again, you just mentioned that we should do first set of primary notes from any
Yeah.
source, some coaching notes,
Yeah.
किसी senior
Yeah.
के मिले, topper के मिले. That should be the
Yes,
main
sir.
thing. On top of that,
This
then
will
we
be the
should
main.
add these additional books.
Please, yeah,
Time
because you
permits.
are having enough time. Yeah, if time permits.
Now, one more point. You talked about the use of PYQs to identify priority topics,
Yes, sir.
to identify the dimensions, the depth required, the kind of topics they ask questions from, themes
Hmm.
वगैरह. बट ये सब लोग बात करते हैं पीवाई को एनालाइज करो, पीवाई को एनालाइज करो, मतलब क्या करें?
First of all, for instance, sir, if you are doing just one thing, So just pick so if you are doing your Mauryan history, so just see the kind of question that they have asked from the Mauryan part. So the question would be either on the Mauryan administration or for the sources. So you can divide your entire theme in a 4 or 5 points. For the sources, one is the area, then second is the expansion, the political expansion, and the third is the administration of the system, administration of the Mauryan, then the economy, then the normal society, and the culture. So now try to understand of the which theme or direction or the topic the UPSC is asking. So if it one question would be the understanding of the Mauryan Empire from the Kotal perspective. So this is from the sources point of view. Then another question would be so the this debate on the centralized versus decentralized nature of the administration. So the question is from the administration. Then another question either would be from the culture. So the Ashoka Dhamma or from the culture, architecture, and the sculptures of that modern time. So it would be from the cultural area. So just divide entire theme of your every topic. So for Maurya, similarly, I would be doing for the post Maurya as well. I would be doing for the Gupta as well. And then I would be saying the PYQs, the kind of question that are being asked, and from which theme the PYQ is being asked. So if it is, and then it would be become more easy for me. Okay, so I would be identifying. Okay, so for the modern, these three areas are more important: administration, sources, as well as the culture. And another area, I would be just reading them, but I would not be focusing too much on them. For instance, for the modern as well, I have divided sources, administration, political expansion, administration, economy, society, and culture. But the kind of question from the economy are not being asked from the modern empire. So I would be just reading economy of the modern, but I would not be doing too many things for the modern. But for the post-modern empire, for the post-modern period, I would be specifically focusing on the economy because the question were from the age of commerce and the kind of economy that there was emerging. So for every topic, you would be finding it in that perspective.
Okay, so it's primary frequency analysis of topics. That is the main.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, when you start writing answers, we have some comments also here about answer
Yeah.
writing.
Yeah.
One difference I understand in university versus UPSC is that university may you have to be more elaborate. You can
Yes,
keep
sir.
writing as long as you want. Char panne,
As long as long. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
the more nuanced you are, better it is. Maybe
Yeah.
pick up many micro studies or local
Micro
essays.
studies. Yes, sir.
The premium is on the latest history, latest historians, latest rebels.
Historians. The primary sources that you can mention.
Yes, primary sources are very important.
Yes, sir.
But in UPSC, you have to have limited space, limited time.
Especially, yes, sir.
You can't be much elaborate. And
Yes.
what is more interesting is that you have to reach some finality. You can't just say कि
You
भाई
can. Yes, sir.
it is open.
It is open the
Have to be
historical
open-ended,
debate. Yes, sir.
but in
Yes,
some
sir.
you have to reach some conclusion.
Yes,
I
sir.
always think it is like a bureaucrat. You can't.
Yes, sir. You
You
have
have to
to be
think like a
open.
bureaucrat
Yes.
to read
Yes,
something,
sir.
to take a call. An
Yes,
academic
sir.
can afford to be inconclusive in his at
Yes,
the
sir.
end of the approach.
That
Bureaucrat
is
cannot.
left to be opened up. That is the crux of the academia as well.
ब्यूरोक्रेट को तो भाई डिसीजन लेना है
Yes,
और
sir.
वो वही फाइल नोटिंग के कॉर्नर में ही नोटिंग करके डिसीजन लेना है.
Not can.
तो
Yes, sir.
क्रिस्प लैंग्वेज टू द पॉइंट फैक्चुअल एंड कंक्लूसिव. अब ये
Conclusive.
वाला
Yes,
जो
sir.
आंसर राइटिंग है इसको अगर इवॉल्व करना हो तो व्हाट काइंड ऑफ
Hmm.
प्रैक्टिस इज रिक्वायर्ड.
What I practice, sir. So in my initial years, I started writing in my own manner. So the introduction I would be trying to write an introduction at least 4 or 5 lines I would be writing. But then with the time, I would be reading my own answer. So if I have wrote my answer, then after 2 or 3 days, I would be reading my answer and I would be finding what were the verbosity that I was using and what are the words that I can remove them. So I would be picking up a pencil and then I would be cutting down the different unnecessary grammatical words, unnecessary technical words that are not required, and I was just trying to lengthen my answer. So at that, so that what I would be cutting them down so that it would reduce the space that I was using. And then gradually I started, okay, so for these 4 or 5 lines, I could have completed in 1 or 2 lines only. So then it started helping me a lot in transitioning from there, and then you should do on your own as well as some toppers copies as well. So when you are seeing the toppers copies, so you would be you get the question first of all, you should see the question of the what the toppers has written. Then you should also try to think in your mind, how would you have written it, and then see the topper's copies, and then see, okay, for that point, when you have written at least 4 or 5 lines, he has done or she has done in just 1 or 2 lines. So how she has done it, or how she has done in a manner that she has given the core argument without giving too many number of points. So then it helped me a lot in transitioning from that academia perspective. And then here the mentor would be definitely helping you when if you are writing a number of questions answer, and then you can also show to your seniors as well. Then they would be also suggesting you, okay, so this is the unnecessary, why you have to mention this. Then that would help you in transitioning.
That's very useful. So first write your
Yeah.
own answer, howsoever you know.
Yes.
Then
Yeah.
after some time read and make it better and compare with
Yes, sir.
topper's answer of the same question.
Yes, sir.
And do it again. Can you recommend some toppers whose answers you have seen for history?
Uh, yes, sir. For instance, I watched this. What was his name? I'm not remembering the exact name. So rank 9 was there in 2023, and then before it, Shruti Sharma ma'am. I have
There,
watched.
Notion also there.
See, yes, she was also from DU. So I was helping. It was helping me a lot because she was also having a background in academia. So I usually watched his answers in a more effective manner. And these were the two historians, the two persons that I was regularly seeing the copies.
Yeah. We have shared your answers also, at least for 2-3 copies on our
Okay.
website, along with this year's toppers that we have and previous years also,
Okay.
including Noshin. I think Noshin के बारे में
Okay.
आप बात करते थे.
Yes, sir. Noshin was also there. Yes, sir.
Her answer very
Rank
good
9.
also.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, काफी अच्छे थे.
Yes, sir. Sure.
We have two questions on answer writing here. One
Yeah.
question is that I know all the content, I know the topic, but when I start writing, कुछ चमकता नहीं. I can't write on paper. And it is a typical starter's problem. हमेशा सबका
Yeah,
यही होता
yes, sir. That is the normal thing that one can get. Just try to first of all, there is the two things. One is the revision problem as well. So if you have not done revise proper, if you have not done your revision properly, then you would not be getting too many number of points. So first of all, effective revision is very much required. And then if you are a beginner, just try to write it in a manner that you can write. Just try to write at least two or three pages. You would be writing your own content according to the question, and then you would be after 2 or 3 days just see your own answer, and then see that how could have you better written that answer similar in a more effective manner. So first of all, you should start breaking your inertia. Just try to write whatever you can remember on that topic. Just try to write that down, and then after 4 or 5 or 10 questions, you would be getting the flavor how to introduce your question in a more effective manner, how to divide your question in a more two format of one body part and the second body part, and then write down the conclusion. Just break your inertia, start writing whatever you can write, at least for that topic that you are remembering, at least for that time.
लिखो पहले, क्वालिटी बाद में देखी
Yes,
जाएगी,
sir.
लिखना शुरू
Yeah,
करो.
quality band. Yes, sir.
That's very important.
Yeah.
One more thing in your preparation cycle. When exactly did you start writing? After covering what part of syllabus, or was it from the very beginning?
No, no, sir. I would not be writing from the very beginning, because if I am not having any content, what would I be writing? So that's a similar thing. So I would be covering my specific portion. For instance, in ancient India, I would be completing at least till the post-modern or the Gupta period. Then I would be starting seeing the PYQ, writing the PYQ. When I was reading the portion, that I would be always having my PYQ in my desk, and then I would be always be seeing that what kind of question and what depth the UPSC is asking for each theme. But I would not be trying to write it. I would be brainstorming each point. For instance, in the Neolithic. So Neolithic was considered as the age of transition. So that was the question always there. So when I was reading my Neolithic notes, I would be brainstorming what number of points I could have written in that question. But I would not be writing it. But if I have completed till the post-modern and the Gupta period, now I have completed enough portion of my ancient India, then I can start writing my answers.
Okay. So for answer writing, you don't have to write every time. You have to
Yes,
also
sir.
do mental practice every
Mental
day
practice.
and
Yes.
write
Yes.
relatively later on.
Later on. Yes, sir.
So whenever you read any notes, any book, always read questions before and after.
Yes, sir. Before
बिना
the
क्वेश्चन
after.
की
Yes, sir.
किताब मत पढ़ो, उसका यूटिलिटी नहीं होता उतना.
Utility in here. So how would you brainstorm the question if you are not having you have never seen the kind of PYQ question? So you should have in your mind that okay, this is the theme that UPSC has asked, and the kind of dimension UPSC has asked. So then when I would be revising or reading my notes, I would always be focusing on those number of points that need to be there in my answers.
Okay. ठीक है. अच्छा, इसी I'll ask one more question on answer
Yes.
writing.
Yeah.
Some students focus a lot on having more and more points in the body.
Hmm.
Maybe historians, maybe facts, maybe analytical points, but body is given more importance. You have
Okay.
already talked about value addition, तो उसकी बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ मैं, the basic thing.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
some students focus a lot on ensuring the quality of intro and conclusion.
Hmm.
So what do you think? यदि both of them are equally important और कहीं ज्यादा फोकस करना चाहिए कि नहीं, कंक्लूजन अच्छा होना ही चाहिए?
More than conclusion, I would be focusing on the intro. So intro would be more attract. It should be more attractive. So it should given that it should show the direction in which direction your answer would be going. So in the introduction, I would be trying to give a more technical or the more conceptual thing, and then the body part. So the core of my answer would be in my intro and the body part. Conclusion would not be too much focused upon. So just try to mention the adequate conclusion should be there, but the focus should be in the intro. Because if a evaluator is started reading your answer, he would or she would be reading your answer from the introduction perspective, and then the kind of background you are mentioning in your introduction, that would be more helpful in understanding for her or him that what kind of the body the things that you are going to write in your body part. So the introduction used to be focused a lot in my answers.
ओके ओके. एंड टू वहाँ पे दो क्वेश्चंस और आते हैं.
Yeah. Yes.
कि पहली बात तो आई थिंक पैराग्राफ वर्सेस बुलेट पॉइंट्स यू ऑलरेडी मेंशन कि पैराग्राफ
Yes, sir.
हेडिंग्स डाल दो एंड छोटे पैराग्राफ
Headaches.
टू द पॉइंट
छोटे
रखो, इट इज
paragraphs.
एज गुड
Yes.
एज पॉइंट्स. तो
Yes, sir.
पॉइंट इज आंसर्ड. But when you try to do some value addition, generally you mentioned you used to draw small maps to locate
Yes,
the
sir.
sites that you are mentioning in
Yeah.
the
Yes.
answer. Is it only for India और सारी दुनिया भर के मैप्स आपने प्रैक्टिस करके रखे थे? अमेरिका,
No, sir.
यूके?
At least, especially for the India, at least we can follow it. And for the world map, if you are writing in a more factual manner, that would be more required. So, for at least for instance, in the integration of Germany and Italy, there you can mention the map because it is the geographical historian perspective. But for the American Revolution or for the French Revolution, that would not be very much required. Or for instance, in the Industrial Revolution, the question would be more on the factors of the industrial revolution rather than the location of that area. So what you should practice broadly, especially in the world map, but for the Indian history, it would be more rewarding for you.
Okay, okay. We have one question here by Arpit Yadav.
Yeah,
Question regarding answer writing in history, we are bound to draw upon cause-effect relationship throughout the answer. Causation is the
yeah,
core of history. Yes. The
yeah.
problem that I
Causation,
have
obviously.
faced with regard to answer writing was in building coherence in both facts and answers, because we are not dealing with philosophy here. So facts
Mm.
have to be key entry point, and jumping on either side, that is fact quoting and philosophical analysis, may lead to negative externalities. So the importance of building coherence becomes very important. I think if I can understand the question that the student has is that fact and analysis को साथ में लेके कैसे चले
Okay, okay.
in
So, what?
limited capacity.
Okay. So what I used to do that if I am having any specific fact, I would try to generate a number of argument from that fact only. And then I would be mentioning those fact as a example of that argument. For instance, this time the Chalcolithic period. So the question was on the artifacts of the Chalcolithic show different kind of vibrancy, something like that. There was a question in 2025. So what I was having in my mind, okay, so the Chalcolithics, the poetry I was having. So I would be writing effectively, but I would be generating a number of points from that poetry portion. That okay, so the Chalcolithic poetry was having a specific vibrancy, and that was they were having a specific scientific understanding as well. So this became my argument, and then I would be mentioning as example the specific Chalcolithic poetry portion. And then I can also draw a bit Chalcolithic poetry as well if I have the space. But I would be mentioning fact, and then I would be trying to generate my argument that from that fact only. So if you are saying that because you are having any argument and you are not having a fact, but you are not having coherence, so try to generate the argument from that fact only. That becomes more helpful. So there would be more coherence in your answer then.
Okay, nice, nice. Now we have a couple of questions on analysis once more. एक
Okay.
सवाल है कि हाउ टू बिल्ड इनफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग स्लैश क्लैरिटी टू एस्टेब्लिश इंटरलिंकेजेस बिटवीन थीम्स की पॉलिटिकल एंड जैसे इस बार अब क्वेश्चंस जो आ रहे रोल ऑफ स्तूपास एंड संघ इन इकोनॉमी फॉर एग्जांपल,
Yes, sir.
संघ
Yes, sir.
पढ़ते हैं जनरली रिलीजन में, इकोनॉमिक रोल नहीं
Religion.
पढ़ते. सो इफ सच क्वेश्चन स्टार्ट कमिंग, caste and gender, again another.
Yes, sir.
So
Yeah,
how
the
to
way.
understand that interlinkages?
What I used to do from I used to do a framework understanding. So the framework kind of view. So the for the role of the Sangha in the economy. So I would be opening the economy portion into the agriculture, into the commercial area, into the trading portion, into the banking area. So these are the number of points, and then I would be trying to link. Okay, so the sun, what the sun can do in the agriculture. So sun can own the land and then start expanding the agriculture. So one point would be there. Then sun can also open the carry out the canal works, the digging of the wells. So one is the irrigation portion from the agriculture. So I have given 2 points. Then from the commerce perspective, the sun can engage in the trading activities. So from the banking perspective, sun can take the deposit and give it the credit. Sun can also start a credit taking giving credit for the trading activities. So these are the number of points because I have opened the economy from that perspective, and then I am linking Sangha with that economy perspective. Similarly, for the caste and the gender. So caste, because for the purity of the caste, you would be required having control on the choices of the specific gender. So then I would be starting. So what are the choices that a specific gender can have with respect to marriage, with respect to education, with respect to financial choices, and then I would be linking what caste can reduce the choices in different areas. So in marriage area, what caste can do in education area, so that you would be reducing the avenues for the education for a specific gender. You would be reducing the age of the marriage. You would be reducing the opportunity for the divorce. So these are the opening of the different portions, and then I the linking would be required from the mind perspective.
So I think if I can understand you correctly, one first part is to deconstruct the theme into its
Yes, sir.
sub themes, and
Sub
then
themes.
extending the analytical part to it.
Yeah, analytical part.
Automatically help in establishing linkages. Not only
External
linkages, it's a
linkages.
good approach because you reduce the memory load also. अब on the spot
Memory load as well.
इतना
Yes, sir.
याद
So
तो
you
रखें.
can on the spot generate number of points.
Yes, that's very good. That's very good.
Hmm.
एक सवाल और है about historian.
Yes.
Uh,
Hmm.
when we can mention very few historians, अगर दो तीन ही नाम एक दो ही नाम लिखने हैं, then
Hmm.
should we prefer to stick to mainstream well-known historians?
Famous historians everyone knows. So
Okay.
Romila Thapar, R.S. Sharma, everyone knows about their argument and their. If a question is specifically on a theme that they have worked upon, so you can't write about the Mauryan administration without mentioning the Romila Thapar, that centralized and the decentralized debate. But if it is a question of the social-religious reform movement, so I can mention the Tanika Sarkar. Everyone can remember the Sumit Sarkar and other historian, but Tanika Sarkar is usually not mentioned, but his her argument is very specific about this the role of the gender in a social justice reform movement. So I would be also trying to write if I'm having one or two less known historians and one two more famous historians. So you can get a mixture of those personalities.
असल इससे मेरा एक डर मेरे मन में क्रिएट होता
Yes.
है, एक
Yeah.
द फियर ऑफ अननोन, कि इन
Yeah.
एकेडमिया आई नो द डिबेट्स आर वेरी फियर्स.
Yeah.
हाथ पे रख के डिबेट करते हैं कि ये नहीं
Yes,
ये
sir.
नहीं ये.
Yeah, yes, sir.
So what if I end up mentioning a historian who is disliked by the person who
This
is
like
taking copies?
yes, sir.
Yeah, highly
Yes, yes, sir.
plausible है.
Yes, sir. There is highly possible.
Then because the same
So
professors are checking copies.
So what I used to do, sir. So I used to mention the foreign historians. So that's one is not known the inclination of that foreign historian. So that there is the one advantage that I can get from that perspective. So for instance, no one knows about the inclination of the Kenneth Jones. So I can mention the Kenneth Jones. So no one knows about the inclination of the Barbara Metcalf. So I can mention at least his or her name. So this was the one advantage that I got from my post graduation, at least in history. But one should stick at least if there is so much controversy about a specific historical person, then one should try to remove the name of that person write them the core argument only. So as you were mentioning, the structural, the functional, the linear society, and other kind of words, then one can stick to that portion, so that there would be not be any in dislike for that specific historical person.
Hmm. So there is a teeny tiny possibility
Yes sir.
also that should be avoided अगर हो
Yes
सके.
sir. हो
ठीक
सकता है तो yes.
ठीक है. I think we have covered most of the doubts. एक आखिरी सवाल है राहुल का.
Yes.
How scoring
Yes.
can be history optional? I think this should be the first question. But चलो
What,
आखिरी question.
what sir?
How scoring is history optional?
Yes, sir. I would be saying that history option is very much scoring, because I have got my rank if within the top 100. It is also because of the history only. So history optional or the optional should be seen as a tool to bring you from the top within the top 100, because as far as the score of the history is concerned, average score is always around 260 to 70. So
Yes.
if you have done good number of, if you have add number of good things, and you have shown your academic interest in enrichment as well, then you would be in the league of 280 to 90 league as well. But the average score is always around 240, 250, 260, and that is one of the good score if as far as the other optional papers are also concerned. So the top score of those subjects, as well as the average score of the history is concerned, the average score of the history is much ahead with as far as those papers are concerned.
Okay. Okay. Now, Hassan, I would like to end the session with a very interesting topic that you mentioned in the very beginning.
Okay,
That
sir.
in your second interview, you got 195, and the
Yes,
history
sir.
will give you a lot of advantage there.
Yes, sir.
Because the people in the UPSC panel, they are always interested in history and
And
debates
yes,
around
sir.
it. Can you share some of the questions that you discussed there? Some of the
Okay,
topics.
sir. So one question was this: in which ruler time would you like to live under right now? So I mentioned Emperor Ashoka. So our panel member asked, so okay, so if just think that in front of you Emperor Ashoka is sitting, so just ask him three questions. So I asked a number of questions from that. Why have you left this war strategy? Why have you started this Dhamma? And how would the second question was, how would you ensure the integration of this vast empire, because such a vast empire you are having? And third question was, how would we ensure the prosperity or empire's economy? So these were the three questions that I asked. So the sir asked, so okay, so just think that now I am a magician, and I have made you Emperor Ashoka. So just answer these three questions that you have asked. So then I answered these three questions. Okay, so one is the because of the change of the kind of violence that was there, and then second question was the administration. So that's enough centralization and decentralization combination for the modern administration. So this was the question. Then sir asked, okay, so what I think that the change of the heart was not there for the Ashoka, and that was a more tactical tool. So I answered that, okay, sir, there is a one perspective that the Ashoka was using this Dhamma policy as a religion, as a tool as well, tactical tool. But if an emperor is changing his entire inclination towards a specific Dhamma, so it is not just a change of the mind; it also comes from the change of heart. So he said, yeah, so it should be the blend of mind and heart. So this is the one area. Then another kind of questions that history I think that history is always about the dates and the time. So don't you find history is boring? So I answered it. History is not, sir. It's only about dates and time. It is about the changes in the different aspects. So it changes in the administration, changes in the society, changes in the economy, and the evolution. So that if you read history in a more evolving nature, as a evolving nature, then you would be finding interest, and it is also very analytical in nature. So you usually try to find out the cause effect, cause result relation in the history. So it also becomes more so much interesting. So these kind of the questions were there, and they were because of the history. So it helped me a lot to get answer in a more effective manner.
That's very very interesting. What is people? I think अब तो जमाना चेंज हो गया है. लोग नहीं कहेंगे
Yes,
हिस्ट्री
sir.
बोरिंग है.
Yes.
जस्ट गो ऑन यूट्यूब एंड सोशल मीडिया, ऐसी सारे डिबेट हिस्टोरिकली चलते रहते हैं. तो
Yes, sir.
इट इज द मोस्ट एनग्रोसिंग थिंग नो.
Yes, sir.
ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है हसन. Thank you very much. I think it was very enlightening also for a lot of us. It was quite detailed and quite specific discussion, the kind we
Thank you,
would
sir.
always like to have. I
Yes, sir.
think we'll have a session one more quite soon. Again, I will talk to students, and if they have any specific topic in their mind, we can hold one more session sometime.
Sure, sir. Sure.
So, thank you and all the
Thank,
best.
thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.